Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. John Schmelk with you. Thrilled to welcome back for the second time this year former NFL quarterback Brian Hoyer. He came on to talk with us about Jaxson Dart a couple months ago, and now he had so much fun, wanted to do it again, preview the Patriots matchup on Monday night. Brian, hope you had a great Thanksgiving, man. How are you?
Yeah, same to you, John. I'm back here in Cleveland, Ohio, and actually a snowstorm right now, which is, you didn't plan on that, but having grown up in Cleveland, you never know. And I remember back in the day, Thanksgiving for me was getting out in the morning, playing football in the snow, hopefully, if it happened, and then have some food and watch some great games, which there were some great games last night, yesterday. So that was pretty cool.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, when I asked the little home assistant what the weather was this morning when I woke up, they said chance of flurries in New York. So
There we go.
it
All
is
right.
cold here as well. And I imagine there's going to be some weather on Monday night when the Giants and Patriots play. Night games in Foxborough are always interesting. What should Giant fans expect when they take on the Patriots? Because the Patriots' record's great. They're on pace to be the number one seed in the AFC. But it's funny, you look at their strength of schedule this year, it's not just the easiest in the league, it is by far the easiest in the league. So is this Patriot team real? What should Giant fans be expecting when they walk into Foxborough on Monday night?
Yeah, I do think they're real, and people might call me a homer, but I always remind people I played for 9 different teams, so it don't say that I'm just like this Patriots guy. Look, the reality is they've gotten to where I thought they would be a lot faster under Mike Vrabel. Now, I thought going into the season they made a lot of great moves. Obviously, with the coaching staff, you get to hire Vrabel back. He comes. And I think Vrabel is such a great bridge of like old school and new school. And on top of that, he was a former player, and not just any former player. He was a great player, right? And he'll let you know, right? He not just to his team, but like to the media, and he'll always reference, yeah, I had 10 catches and they were all touchdowns, like stuff like that. And I think the guys really have gravitated towards that. And then the other big addition, and people, give me crap about this too because I played for the guy, but Josh McDaniels coming back. You couldn't have asked for someone better to be in the room with Drake Maye, and it's why. And I'm not going to take anything away from Drake. Drake has done a tremendous job working on his own, and he was always super talented. But spending an off season with Josh, learning the system, and Josh has done a good job, to his credit, of adapting his offense to what Drake does really well and what the players he has does do really well. And so I do think they're for real. And the one reason I say that is some of the closest teams that I played on were the best teams, and they happen to be here in New England. And this team is very close. They're very tight knit. They've kind of embraced this. Everybody's doubting them. Even though we're 10-2, people are saying, it's the strength of schedule, or they're going to hit a wall. And I will say this: they beat the Bengals in a game that you would have hoped would have been a little bit better by them, but they lost a lot. They had some key injuries, right? So this Giants game makes me a little nervous because I look at, the turmoil that they've been through. You fire the defensive coordinator last week, and I've been on some of those teams too. And sometimes when you have nothing to lose and you're as talented as the Giants are, that's kind of walking into. I don't even want to use the word trap game. It's like you're walking in against a talented defense. Obviously Brian Burns and Thibodeau and Abdul Carter and Sexy Dexy. Like, you're down a few linemen and you got a new defensive coordinator. What are you supposed to prepare for? Not that he can change the entire scheme in a matter of a week, but it's kind of a wild card, and it does make me nervous going into this Monday night.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the offensive line injuries. You mentioned that the Patriots, the left side of their offensive line, two rookies that have played pretty well this year, four
Yeah.
rookies, are not going to be there. How is that going to impact how the Patriots operate their offense and just how they're going to look on Monday night?
Yeah, I said this in a few things that I cover about the Patriots this week. The one thing, and this goes back to Josh McDaniels, like Josh is not just going to go in there and be like, oh, we got to replace these two guys. We're just going to run our plays. He's going to be very mindful of how he calls the plays. He's going to be very mindful of, who's in the game for the Giants. Is Brian Burns over on the sideline? Okay, now maybe we have an opportunity to take a shot down the field. I would imagine going into this game, the message to Drake in the offense this week is, fellas, like, the strength of the Giants defense is their front four, front seven. If we call a pass play, the ball's got to come out. Like, Drake, we cannot hold the ball on these quick drop back passes or quick game. When I call a certain play into the huddle, and you guys hear it and it's a jam protection and the routes are downfield. Like this is the opportunity to try to hit those. We're not going to try to do that when, you know, their NASCAR package is out there on the field and they got their 4 elite pass rushers and we have a whole new left side of the line playing. So that's where like having a guy with the experience that Josh has, that's why you hired him. You could go out and hire some sexy young guy of the West Coast system who's up and comer, but this is where Josh's experience is going to pay off because of the way he's going to develop that game plan this week.
You know, Brian, it's funny because I think the outside impression of Josh McDaniels, flexible would not be a word that I think people would ascribe to him. But how has he been flexible? You mentioned how he really has adopted his offense to Drake Maye's strength. For someone that lived in that offense and knows what it looked like with Tom Brady, how has he adjusted it so that it works for Drake Maye?
It's kind of funny that I hear that narrative because of all the teams, coaches, offensive coordinators I play with. Josh has always been the most flexible. Now,
Wow.
it's been within the system, and so there's been some things this year that you've seen that maybe weren't a part of the offense when Tom Brady was the quarterback, but when Mac Jones was the quarterback, there were certain things that I saw. I was there when Cam Newton was there. It was very flexible. And honestly, I would always say this, the beauty of that system is that it's so flexible that from week to week, it can go from one system to the other, as opposed to sometimes being in that West Coast scheme. It's like they're going to run the same plays. They may look a little different, but the play is the play. And so when a team can diagnose, okay, there's fast motion, but it's still the classic West Coast concepts. The one thing about that New England system is you may run a play week 3 and you may not run it again until week 14 because it just doesn't line up with who you're playing. And so when you add what Josh has been able to add with moving, getting Drake on the move, you see more boots now, you see more deep shots because Drake's one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. Josh has really adapted the way he's called the plays. And I think that's something that shows, you know, just being flexible to the players you have. And then on top of that, who are you playing? So I would imagine going into this week, you know, you got a new defensive coordinator. You're not really sure what's he going to do. And this is always kind of a joke amongst players and in team meetings when you are going up against someone who's trying to make a name for themselves, especially on a national TV game. You have to have your head on a swivel. You don't know. I mean, he could throw out a all-out blitz in the middle of the second quarter, and you'd be like, that hasn't happened all year. So I think the message that Josh McDaniels has given to that Patriots offense this week is, look, we're going to have a very specific game plan. We have to stick with that. And on top of all that, you have to be ready for anything. You don't know what the game plan is going to be. And sometimes by the time you get through the second quarter, we would say the game will declare itself. So we'll know what this Giants defensive game plan is by halftime. And then you have to make those adjustments. And they've done a really good job this year coming out of halftime, making great adjustments. So that's something they have to be aware of.
What's been the biggest jump that Drake Maye has taken in his second year where he's playing at a MVP caliber level?
For me, you know, I watched him last year as a rookie and he was playing in a West Coast system and you get to this year and just the efficiency with which he's thrown the ball. You know, I don't know what his completion percentage was last year, but he's among the league leaders this year and you don't usually see someone jump. And to me, and I've always made this argument, people want to talk about accuracy. It's not always a physical thing. To me, it's a mental thing because if you know where to throw the football, it makes it a lot easier to get the completions, right? And so not only has he been efficient, but he's been so effective with the deep pass. And that's where, to me, his level of understanding the system is, I by all accounts, we all knew he was smart. He was he did a good job learning on the fly last year. I just didn't know how quickly he would be up to speed with Josh's system. And I mean, the first week and a half was a little bumpy. And from then, probably till last game against the Bengals in the first quarter was the first time I've seen him be off a little bit. And then all of a sudden a switch flipped and it was like, all right, there's the Drake that we've come to notice, you know, and it's hard sometimes because he's been so good so quickly to remember he's only 23 years old. And the thing that I loved about him since the moment he took over last year and I was covering him was just his maturity level, like the way he carries himself. He's very humble. He dishes out the praise to his teammates. He takes a lot of if there's something bad, he puts it on himself. And that's rare to see in this day and age, especially from a guy who's so young. So he's really been the total package and it's been a lot of fun to watch him.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you gotta go over the middle with it to score.
Right.
how do we make that happen?
I don't know, but Citizens does.
Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
Yeah, it's funny when, here, and it just brought up a memory when Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning were here for all those years and I covered them. It was always if something went wrong, it's our fault. If something went well, it was everyone else's credit. And that's how those guys operate. And that's how the leaders really do. I think what's really gotten me with Drake, to me, Brian, they don't have elite weapons. Like their offensive line has been good. It's not an elite offensive line. The run game has been fine. It's not terrific. The fact that he's doing this in his second year, and you can get into the pieces around him, but non-elite pieces around him, and this is really just the second year of a complete rebuild in New England. It's kind of amazing. Like I love Drake coming out. He was my favorite quarterback in that class. I didn't think it'd be this fast.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I think that's why I think to a lot of us former Patriots, it's been so fun to watch because there's so many similarities to what it was when we were successful, right? You had Tom Brady and you had Julian, you had Gronk, but it wasn't like, the Bengals who have Higgins and Jamar Chase. It's not like in Dallas with, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens or, whatever those. But I think the way this offense runs, it could be anybody's day, any given Sunday, right? It could be Diggs for 100 yards. It could be Mac Hollins for 100 yards. It could be Hunter Henry for 100 yards. And it kind of is a throwback to those old Patriot offenses. Like you didn't know who was going to be the guy. And a lot of that goes back to Josh McDaniels and game planning. And so I'm sure last week they saw that Bengals defense and said, we can exploit them with the tight end. So Hunter Henry has a career day. You go up to Buffalo and Diggs is back playing his old team and he has a big day. It's just, and to me, that goes to the level of Drake Maye's understanding of the offense. He's not forcing the ball anywhere. He's going where the defense tells him to go. And then when he gets an opportunity, I mean, it's really been amazing to watch his deep ball accuracy because the amount of throws that he's completing down the field, you would say should bring his completion percentage down. And he's, like I said before, I mean, it doesn't matter short, middle, deep, like he's been so calm and is just taking the shots when they're there and has hit a lot of them. And that's why it's been so impressive.
You talked about this previously. How much can Charlie Bullen change in a week? You've been a quarterback against teams that have changed a coordinator. Is it like tendencies in terms of like pressures and blitzes? Can you actually change the way the fronts work on early downs? That run defense has been so bad. What are some of the biggest changes that you think a new DC can put in with just 6 days in between games?
Yeah, I mean, tendencies would be number one because you've had a guy there calling plays for so long. He had his own tendencies. Here comes a guy who's going to call plays for the first time. He has nothing to go off of. I mean, he's watched what's happened. I'm sure he's getting input from a lot of those players like, hey, what do you want to do more? Or what do you think we can do to affect the quarterback more? Whatever it might be. So that's why, like, you're not going to be changing calls and terminology, but you may say, we like this blitz a little bit more than the old defensive coordinator, or maybe we want to play more coverage and only rush four, or maybe there's more games on the inside of the defensive line. And so that's why I said, like, it's not going to be a complete change of what they do because it's still the same players. This coach has been around and he's clearly influenced, but he's going to have his own flavor, right? And so that's why, to me, this is like such a scary game to go into. One, a new coordinator. Two, you're playing a team that has nothing to lose. And that's very dangerous. I've been on those teams. I've been on the teams that are playing the teams that have nothing to lose. And the one thing I would say, the only way to kind of get ahead of it is to not let them in the game early. Because I have a feeling, Dart's going to be back. Since the last time we talked, that was a brutal loss of Scadaboo. Like when he had that injury, you could almost see the life sucked out of the entire team. And it's amazing what two rookies were able to bring to that team. So, and I love Jameis. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about him, but
he's the best.
I tune into every press conference because it is just pure gold. And like, he needs to be protected at all costs. Like, I love that guy, but now here's Jaxson Dart's going to come back. Like, he's going to bring some juice back. And I'll say this, a few weeks ago, playing the other team from New York, we won't even mention their name. They had a little bit of trouble with Justin Fields and scrambling and running the football. And so what has Jaxson Dart done better than any other quarterback this year? He's run the football. So that's going to present a challenge on the defensive side of the ball for the Patriots. And then offensively, you just don't know what you're going to get. So you kind of go in and you don't want to be timid because you don't want to let them hang around in the game. And so I'm just saying, like, this is one of those games. I really don't know how it's going to go, because I think if Jaxson Dart comes back and he plays the way he did and he brings some energy, and with this new defensive coordinator, you're able to get a few sacks, and the Patriots aren't able to score early, you could be, if you're the Patriots, you're going to be out there fighting for your life, because the reality is the Giants are a talented team.
Yeah, and it sure seems like Dart's going to go as of our recording here on Friday. So I'll hit the Dart in a second. Last one on the Giants defense. When you've watched them on tape, Brian, what are some of the major issues you've seen in their blowing games late? That's been one major weakness. Yeah. The second major weakness, they cannot stop the run if their life depended on it. What do you see in their run defense that has been so poor?
Well, I think that's the one thing when you have this quote unquote elite pass rush on paper. Well, what do those guys want to do? They want to rush the passer. And so we've always talked about it this way. If you're those elite pass rush units, you have to earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run. And that kind of goes hand in hand, because if you have a team who's going to run the football, what's the easiest way to take those guys out of the game? Run the football. And so I think that's the balance they have to find. And if they can stop the run, which the Patriots run game this year, if you would have to say there's any kind of weakness in their offense, it's kind of been hot and cold. I mean, Travion Henderson fills in and he has 2 long touchdowns against Tampa Bay. And then the next few weeks, there's nothing really there. And so I would imagine with Josh going into this, he's going to say, the best way that we can help ourselves is to run the football, because when you run the football, those pass rush specialists, they got to defend the run. They're not getting to, get in their track stance and rush the passer. And so I think a lot of times those guys, they have to understand, if we want to get to 3rd and 8 where we can just tee off and pin our ears back, we can't let them get 4 yards a pop in the running game, right? We have to be able to stop the run. And I think sometimes too, you see guys and they're instinctual and they get out of their gaps because they have a feeling, maybe I can make a play doing this. And all of a sudden now you slam down inside, there's no edge to the defense. And that's the one thing I've seen is, not being able to be as disciplined in those gaps. And all of a sudden, boom, the guy breaks a big run. And now you don't even get a chance to rush the passer.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help. Make sense of your money with Citizens.
Yeah, no question about it. And then when the guys get to the second level, they're not getting them down. And a 15-yard run is turning into a 50-yard run. How about the game stuff? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If they do that with Travion Henderson, that's going to be a problem, because I saw this kid in training camp and it kind of took a while, but if he gets past the front 7, he's either going to run the safety over or he's going to outrun everybody. There's no one who's going to catch him. And so that's the thing. You hit it on the head. You need those front 7 guys to slow these guys down, because if Henderson gets to the secondary, it's going to be an explosive play.
No question. All right, let's jump to the other side of the ball. This Patriot defensive front, man, Caleb Von Chason, Harold Landry. Yep. It's not, the Brian Burns' names, the Abdul Carter names, but combined with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, this Patriot defensive front, man, they've been really impressive this year.
Yeah, they've done a tremendous job. I mean, obviously we talk about getting to this point of the season, injuries, so they lose Milton Williams, and I would say that's been a big reason why the run defense has dropped a little bit. They were like almost historic to the point when they were going to play. I believe it was the Buccaneers, like hadn't had a single running back go over 50 yards. So they've had a few instances in the past few weeks where the run game has gotten going. I think Milton Williams was such a big free agent signing, and it's not always that position isn't always like going to take the headlines, but what he's done to that defense paired with Barmore has been huge, and it has allowed Robert Spillane, I think, one of the top tacklers in the league right now, and they've played really well as a unit. Zach Coor has done a really good job filling in for Terrell Williams, who's dealing with some health issues, and ultimately, and this is such a cliche, good teams take on the personality of their head coach, and you just see Vrabel with the way this defense plays. It's so hard not to see it. They're fundamentally sound. They swarm to the football. To me, it's Vrabes kind of summed up with the way he played and the defense kind of taking on that persona. And then you mentioned it. They've done a good job of earning the right to rush the passer, right? Yeah. Chason has had a tremendous year. Harold, that goes back to, you asked me like how they may have been able to make this turnaround. Whether it was conscious or not, they did a very good job of adding a lot of great veteran defensive players who've maybe were overlooked in other places, but had some ties with Rabel, with Harold Landry in Tennessee. Gibbons was in Tennessee. He's done a good job filling in when he's had to. Same with Spill, a guy I play
Yeah,
with in
Spillane.
Vegas.
Yeah.
When they signed Spillane, I was like, he is going to be beloved in New England because he's just that work, like, lunch pail, work his butt off type of guy, and he's right there in the middle. He's running sideline to sideline, making tackles, and then Christian Gonzalez is one of the best young corners in the NFL. He's done a tremendous job. I think he got a little lazy last week, and he wasn't covering, Chase or Higgins, and he's like, they ain't gonna even throw the ball my way, and they threw one over his head for a touchdown. So he got a bit of a wake up call, but. The safeties have done a tremendous job. Hawkins and this kid Woodson, who they drafted, I think, in the 4th round, who did so well in training camp. They were like, all right, Jabril Peppers, Duggar, like we're going to move on from these guys. So it's just a feisty unit. And you hit it on the head before. Like there's not like, I would say other than Maye and Gonzalez, there's not like, top of the line at their position in the league, but they just play so well as a team. It's just been fun to watch.
And you talk about the Vrabel personality. I think the way they play pass defense, even in the back end, is reflected in that. They're so aggressive. Their corners are big and physical. They play so much man. And for a Giants team that, look, their offense has been good this year. I think they're 11th in EPA per play. Even when Dart's gone out, Winston's been good. I think the offense has been put together by Mike Kafka very, very well. If they have a weakness, they don't have a ton of weapons outside that consistently win one-on-one. Wanda Robinson's done a nice job of that, but remember, he's a smaller guy. The way the Patriots play that tight man-to-man press and they're physical, I think whether or not the Giants receivers can win in those situations is just going to be paramount in this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you lose Malik Neighbors, that's tough, right? Because he was emerging as one of those top young receivers. Wandel's done a great job. I thought Theo Johnson has come up with some plays. And then ultimately, like we talked about before, a team with nothing to lose with the trick plays, right? My boy Gunnar Olszewski, I texted him the other day, bringing out his Bemidji State baseball days, throwing a dime to Jameis, getting in for the end zone.
How about his pocket presence, stepping up through the pocket? How about that?
Dude, I love Gunnar. I was there when he was a rookie, and he is just a true throwback, like one of the grittiest guys. I mean, he was playing defensive back at Bemidji State while playing baseball, right? And so just a pure athlete, a guy who's going to give everything he has. And, he did a tremendous job on that play. But that's what you have to be aware of, right? Nothing to lose. Kafka, this is his audition. A guy I played against going back to college, doing a good job. And it's Monday Night Football. Everybody's going to be watching. So don't think that there aren't going to be some wrinkles. So similarly, like the Patriots offense, you got to be up. You got to be on high alert for everything. The Patriots defense has to be the same way, double reverses, throwback passes, all of those things you have to be on alert for. So it just gives you that extra sense of urgency going into this game.
No question. We're here in the Hackensack and Brittany Hill podcast studio. Keep getting better. And Brian, we spoke a bit ago. It's probably almost a month and a half. I think it was Dart's first or second start about what you've thought about him. How do you feel about how he grew in the offense as he continued to play in Kafka's system? And do you have any additional thoughts about what his future looks like?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to be in a similar situation to Drake Maye. By all accounts, there's going to be a new staff in there. So right now it's about getting that experience. I think Drake learned a lot about handling the adversity of being an NFL quarterback last year. And I think Jackson's gone through that as well. I mean, this is all you need to know about his influence on the young football players out there. My son's playing quarterback this year. Drops back, immediately pulls the ball down to run, and is trying to lower his head and run linebackers over. And I go, where'd you learn that? He's like, Jaxson Dart. So, of course, I have to I'm like, listen, I get it. Like, it's fun and entertaining. But Jaxson Dart was out for 2 weeks because he had a concussion. Like, we don't want to always be playing like that. So I think he's going to learn. I actually love Dart coming out as just a drop back passer. I thought of all the guys, and now we're starting to see, Shador's playing and Cam Ward's playing. Dart in college was probably the best at stepping up in the pocket. And he's done a good job of not only stepping up and keeping his eyes down the field to throw. We've seen some of those plays, but obviously the run has been incredible for him. It's just, look, these young quarterbacks are going to learn one way or the other, whether it's Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy or Jaxson Dart. This is another level. When you get past the line of scrimmage, this is not, Southwest Missouri State guys that are coming to hit you, right? It's just, it's not sustainable. And so hopefully that's something he's learned. You don't want to take that away from him, because I think that type of play style really has benefited him to be successful this year. But you gotta, he has it in him. There was a pass, I think, when they beat the Eagles on that Thursday night game where there was a free blitzer. He hit the sail route to
Theo
I believe it
Johnson,
was
I think. Yep.
Johnson, and I'm like, that right there, like that's ultimately, and I think this will always hold true. At some point in the critical part of your season, it's going to be 3rd and 7. That team is going to not let you run the football, and you're going to have to make those throws in the pocket. And so that type of throw is proof right there that he's more than capable of doing it. I've loved watching him play. I love the swag and, as what my son would call, aura that he has, that he brings to the game. It's not too big for him. He's actually, in my opinion, probably the perfect persona to be playing in New York. And I think he'll continue to get better. He's got the skill traits. And then what they're going to have to make the decision is similarly what the Patriots did. Who are you going to bring around this guy in this offseason to help him develop and take it to the next level?
Yeah, we'll see if Mike Kafka can do enough to hold on to that job too after the year. But there, with the Rooney Rule, there has to be a search. So we'll see what that looks like. Final question, Brian, before we say goodbye. This is great. Again, thank you so much for the time on this Friday. What does this game look like to you? Is this going to be a track meet type of game? Is it going to be a grinded out upper teens type of game? What is this game going to feel like in terms of game flow?
Yeah, I think it could be a grinded out game. I really do. I think it could be a back and forth, especially if the Giants, like I said before, it's going to go one of two ways. Either the Giants are going to come in and they're going to be able to have some success with maybe some things that the Patriots haven't seen, and it's going to be a grinded out game. Or if the Patriots come and are ready for every new adjustment and they can nail it and they can get up quickly. I've been on the teams that are 2-10, okay, and as much as anyone wants to deny it, you get down, it's cold, you're losing by 3 touchdowns. Guys are starting to think like, well, I'm a free agent in the off season.
They also have the bye week next week.
Right.
You might start thinking about Mexico, bro.
You're thinking about, going down to Miami. So it's one of those things. It's a mentality. And I've been on the teams, and it's not everybody, but you look down the sideline, you're like, all right, that person's his car's already started. That was the phrase, right? Like the car's already started, ready to go. And so to me, it's going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to be a battle because the Giants come ready to go and they hit some of those plays and they're in it, or the Patriots are going to take care of business and they're going to take away any energy that the Giants could maybe potentially establish, and I think they can run away with it. But I'm leaning more towards a grinded out back and forth game, because the reality is, and you would know this better than me, but it seems like how many of those close games have the Giants lost where if they had just won a few, maybe Daboll is still the head coach. So it's just sometimes the way the ball bounces, and you got to make those plays in those critical moments. So I could see it being one of those games where it comes down to the last possession. I really could.
Yeah, just 1-5 in one-score games of the Giants this year. So it's been a struggle closing them out. That's the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. Brian, that was great, man. Enjoy your time in Cleveland. Enjoy the game on Monday night, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, John.
That's the Giants Huddle Podcast. We thank Brian Hoyer. We'll see you next time.